All right, everyone, we'll get started. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Belkis Perez. I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Coral Gables. You are in the Fink building. It is the home or the office of the first architect of the City of Coral Gables. It's a historic property. It turns 100 next year, just like the city. And so our purpose is to really uh, help businesses that are here, engage with businesses that are here, make sure that you guys are successful, but also recruit new businesses to the city that really have the that serve the demographic that we're after in the city of Coral Gables. We have 55,000 people that come into the city every day to work. And so those individuals also need to be serviced. And so our job is to make sure that everyone here is getting that there's enough retail, there's enough restaurants, there's enough amenities to really be in business here and to serve the population. So we're here because we have a Coral Gables Digital Marketing and Social Media Summit. This will be one of several that we plan on doing for the rest of the year, actually in 2025. But we had a lot of questions in the past talking about how do you leverage your social media? Are you doing it right? Um, some people have not been able to leverage the data that is behind our social media to really cater to their customers. And so for that reason, we wanted to bring some experts on board to talk about it because we want you guys to succeed at what you're doing. So with that, I wanna just point out a couple of projects that we have going on. So if you are a retail or a restaurant, if you are a storefront that is at street level, we have a holiday window contest that's going on. And so if you want to participate, all you have to do is dress up your windows. And there are some prizes that we will make available, and you will be recognized at the commission at an upcoming commission meeting. And we want to stay in contact with you guys. So please sign up for our business newsletter. It is focused on businesses primarily. So we put out the newsletter not towards e-news. If you're familiar with the city, e-news is a residential based newsletter that the city puts out. The business brief is something that we put out here from the economic development department, and it's facing our businesses. So any grants that are coming up, anything that we learn of that would be beneficial for you guys, that's what is going to be on that newsletter. If you want to sign up, just send us an email to business@coralgables.com. That's really the best way to get hold of us is business@coralgables.com. So I want to get into the speakers that we have here. Um, we have two industry leaders with us, both organic, social, and digital marketing in the digital marketing space. And so I believe that what you will appreciate about these individuals is that they are true pioneers in this particular arena. So Liza Walton joins us here today, president of Preps Social Media, one of the region's leading social media firms serving clients as the Related Group and others. Liza started her career at Anderson Consulting, now Accenture, joined Burson Marsteller, and later served as the City of Miami's Public Information Officer. In 2010, she founded Social Miami Social Marketing and scaled it into a market leader, merging with Preps PR Marketing in 2022, where she now serves as president of Preps Social. Liza, thank you for joining us. And we have Seth Rand, president of Preps Digital, a digital marketing trailblazer with over 20 years of experience. Seth founded two successful organizations, including Wizard Digital, which became part of the BrandStar family of companies. Seth has managed over $50 million in Google advertising and worked with organizations such as the Florida Panthers and Invicta Watches, specializing in SEO, digital advertising, online content marketing, and more. So as you can tell, their services would probably cost thousands of dollars for you. So we're very fortunate to have them here. And we really want to make sure that you get the most of them. So I'll turn it over to Liza.
Who's in the room?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Failed my first moderating. I wanted to know also who is in the room, because that's going to give our speakers a better idea of um, how they should cater their presentation to. So by a show of hands, how many of you primarily serve the local target market? So retail and restaurant. Show of hands, who's in the retail or restaurant forum? Okay, thank you. And then how many of you have clients across the region or even nationally? Any of you with a show of hands? Okay. And how many of you sell your products or services online, whether platforms like Shopify, Amazon, or e-commerce? Okay. Right. So a bit more of you. Great. All right. Thank you. And I'll turn it over now.
Question, so I guess I will answer it. Is this working? Can you guys hear about it? You need it for the recording. Okay, can you guys hear me? So I'm looking at the question right now. The way I thought to answer this is that I'm a big believer that social media should be integrated into your overall marketing plan. So whatever you have going on in your outreach strategy, your communication strategy, your overall campaign, social media should be integrated in that. So your messaging should be consistent, no matter if it is the holidays, if it's 4th of July, if it's Black Friday, your overall messaging that you are doing from a social media perspective, day in and day out, should be consistent. And you should have kind of your pillars of who your brand is. What is your brand personality? What is your voice? Who is your target market? All of these things need to be kept in mind as you're doing individual campaigns, so that your individual campaigns can kind of fit into that. A good example of this, we work with the Miami Foundation. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with them, but they bring us Give Miami Day. So hopefully, if you were not under a rock and you were in Miami 2 weeks ago, you saw everything turn purple, from some of the digital billboards that were along Miracle Mile to the Freedom Tower going purple to the Biltmore going purple. And probably you received several emails from some of your favorite not-for-profits. And the way that we did the social media around that is that we built around that same messaging of what is it that we are going to give to Miami. And we were able to engage different influencers, different people who represent Miami, talked about their passions of what people are going to be giving back to Miami. So it's kind of a good example of how social media was able to drill down a little bit more on the overall messages that were going out, from the emails that were going out, or from the billboards, or even some of the great press that we received, and helped make it personal. So that's probably, I can sort of give an example. Well, that question. Okay, I think that there was a second one. And going back to making sure that your brand message be consistent, no matter what time of year. So I think and this is a good time of year to do this, starting in January. You know, what is the personality of your brand? Is it casual? Is it fun? Is it elegant? Is it sophisticated? Is it luxurious? Your social media, as well as everything in your website, your overall branding, should reflect this overall personality. And from a social media perspective, when someone lands on your Instagram, they should already get your vibe, right? So if you're playful, it should be a playful vibe on that Instagram. If it is something that's elegant, it should have a consistent look and feel, not only on the visuals, but also in your captions. So your holiday messaging, your holiday campaign should go into that as well. And really, some of the things that I look at during the holidays is a lot of times people kind of go off their brand because it is the holiday. So you might have a really beautiful, lovely aesthetic Instagram, and suddenly you've got a cartoon Christmas tree and someone singing happy holidays. It doesn't fit, right? So there are ways that you can, within your overall brand personality, get out your holiday campaign messaging. So I discourage people from kind of, picking something up from Canva or finding something that's just a stock image, posting it up there without necessarily having a mindset of how does this speak to the brand and how is this going to speak to the audience that I am trying to reach. So you want to make sure that you're continuing to keep them engaged. And let's see what else. Yes, and then lastly, I am going to give just a little. How many people here are familiar with Canva? Everybody. Okay, so as social media people, we live and breathe Canva. So whether or not it's to make a PowerPoint presentation, to do something, but I really encourage you guys to really go in there and look at those brand tools that are in Canva. Make sure that your logo and every single iteration of your logo is on there, that your fonts are in there and that they're consistent, that your brand colors are in there and that they're consistent. So when you are kind of coming up with these graphics of whether or not it's going to be something, a flyer that you're putting out or something that you're putting in your storefront, a social media post, or something you're going to be sending via email, you can customize it to have your holiday. An example I use all the time is, for example, October, we tend to go pink. A few of our clients do. You can still be within your brand guidelines, so to speak, and go pink in a fun way, or raise money or do something like that. So I do recommend you kind of go in, and Canva has really great tutorials. And the AI has gotten really good as well in finding some of those, stock imagery that you might need to use that aren't going to be completely off the wall based on what your brand message is.
Okay. So I'm just gonna read the question out loud just for everyone. For small businesses with limited resources, how do you recommend prioritizing digital channels like emails, online ads, SMS for maximum impact? And I think the important thing here is that as a small business, we've got one or two or
As a small business, we have 1 or 5 employees to any small business. And so there's a lot of hats that you guys are juggling. And so for that reason, we want to make sure that you are spending time in the right social media channel.
So first thing that I would tell you is lead nurture. Who's already familiar with your brand, your business, and how do you communicate with them effectively? Number one, that's via social media. Hopefully a good percentage of your clients, customers, or prospects, or partners are following your social media channels, and you're effectively communicating there. Number two is through email, right? Email, people still are checking their inbox throughout the day, more on their mobile devices. And so getting in that inbox at the right time of day with the right subject line and communicating to them what you're offering this holiday season. Number three would be SMS text messages, where an email gets open 20, 30, maybe 40% of the time. A text message is open 92 to 94% of the time. A very high open rate, a very high ROI. For those of you who might not be using a platform yet, for email, I personally like MailChimp. It was recently acquired by Intuit, which owns QuickBooks. There are plenty of alternative options as well. For those of you that are doing e-commerce, I prefer Klaviyo or OmniSend. For the SMS, I like Attentive or Sales Message, which is owned by a local entrepreneur out of Delray Beach, as the right tech stacks for those. Number two is search. So people who are in market, your product or service. And so whether they're going to Google or Bing to search for that product or service, or they're going to YouTube or elsewhere and maybe putting in a question. I like to tease, I go to YouTube to search how to bake a banana bread, right? But if you were on Google, you would search different and be maybe a banana bread recipe or banana bread ingredients. And so the search term might be different, but it's a great way to identify an in-market audience. And always start with your lead nurture and capturing more of that search volume. Search, there's three main ways to capture. One is through your local SEO. So that's your Google My Business and your organic search rankings. Number two is through Google ads, Google search ads, so you're paying per click. And number three are the other Google ad platforms such as Google Shopping and images and those types of things.
A question for that. You said social media, newsletter, SMS.
In that order, you would rate their,
It depends on, so it really depends on where you have your following, right? So if you've only got 100 social media followers, the energy going into great content might not get much reach unless, again, you're using hashtags or other strategies to expand the reach of that organic content. Same would happen with email or SMS. What's the size of your list? So, for example, Divers Direct just killed it this past holiday shopping weekend. They've got 4 retail stores here in Florida that are doing national e-commerce. And so the email list is 400,000 email addresses strong. And so when you get a 30, 35, 40% open rate on that and measure the click-throughs into sales, it really adds up in terms of the dollars that's generated. Their SMS list is much smaller, but because of that high open rate, the return on investment on SMS is even higher than email. So I think it really just depends on where you have those subscribers in order to leverage that audience.
if someone is sending out a newsletter, we've debated back and forth even internally, like, is there a certain time of day that is a good time for that to be opened, for that newsletter to be?
Yeah, I mean, first, we typically recommend sending out the email newsletters on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now, if you're in the kind of business that's gonna get peak traffic over the weekend, you might have to send something on Friday or send a reminder on Saturday morning. I know I get reminders of the farmer's market heading into the weekend. But that day of week matters. Monday morning, everybody's inbox is flooded with all the emails that they may have missed over the weekend. So again, are you B2B or are you B2C? That's another factor in what day of the week. In terms of time of day, I personally prefer to be in that morning after they likely got through their what's left from last night. So is that 9:30 a.m.? Is that 10 a.m.? Maybe it's around their lunch break and they see it as they come back from lunch. I don't typically like to send late at night. But again, really depends on what it is that you're offering and who that audience is.
Sorry, one last one.
SMS, how expensive is it for a small business to get involved with that?
Really inexpensive. So most of these platforms have very low minimums, $10, $20, $30 a month. And it really depends again on how many people are subscribed and how many messages you're sending out. And then if it's a text only message you're sending, it could be a penny an SMS message. If you're adding in an image or a graphic, then usually the rate will double. And so it's really inexpensive. The other part of it is when you think of your email campaigns, you want to have a really good creative. Maybe you're coding it to be HTML and responsive for the different sizes. But a text message, that's really a limited number of text characters, and maybe you're adding one image. So the creative effort that goes into it, not that the messaging doesn't need to align and be on point, but the work that goes into the creative is even less. And so there's minimal barrier to entry there.
Our next question is, how can small businesses use real-time analytics for lead quality to adjust their marketing strategies? So how do they figure out who they're catering?
So I love this one because, most small businesses that I've collaborated with, they're focused on ROI, on results, on return on ad spend, what's going to move the needle towards achieving your revenue goals and strategic growth goals. Number one, everybody should have Google Analytics GA4 installed on their website or landing page, wherever they're driving traffic. It's free, it's easy to install, and it gives you insights on the activity happening on your website or landing page. Number two, what channels are you doing advertising or marketing? And so most platforms, most channels provide some type of conversion pixel, something that gets placed either site-wide or on the thank you page after an action takes place. And so whether that's Google or Meta, Pinterest, TikTok, or your CRM, such as HubSpot, Salesforce, Soho. And so you place these pixels on your website, whether directly or through Google Tag Manager, and then it picks up the activities and conversions that are happening on the website. When measuring activities that aren't completing on the website, such as submitting a form or completing a sale, I like to track all the inbound calls. And so yesterday I was meeting with a cosmetic surgeon, and people are not going to fill out the form on the website asking for a consultation. They're going to pick up the phone, or in most cases, it's mobile click to call. And so there's amazing platforms out there like CallRail or Call Tracking Metrics that you put a little piece of code where the phone number is on the website or landing page, and it swaps out from the pool of phone numbers. So you know exactly what traffic source generated that inbound call. And then we look at things like, did the call get answered? What was the call duration? You can record the calls and play it back. Often my clients aren't the ones answering the phone. They've got somebody else doing it. Well, did you know that half the time they weren't answering the phone? And it'll uncover things you might not have been aware of. And then last is really that CRM. And so at Preps, we leverage HubSpot, which is a fast growing platform and has starter plans as little as $20 to $50 a month. But if you're generating inbound leads, how are you measuring the conversion rate of those leads into sales, and which traffic source is providing that higher quality lead? And so whether that's in your ERP system, your point of sale system, your CRM, but something to measure those leads into sales. The other point I was going to make is real-time feedback. So again, who's interacting with those leads, who's interacting with those customers? And so boots on the ground. And hey guys, hey team, for the leads that have come in over the past week or two, have they been a good fit? What's been a common reason that it isn't a fit? And make adjustments to your campaigns based on that feedback.
So what are some of the common myths about running digital ads during the holidays, and how can businesses avoid falling for it? We've all seen a lot of ads lately.
For Black Friday, for example.
Yeah, I mean, first, I typically recommend starting holiday ads after Halloween. And then, of course, this year was a big election cycle, billions of dollars spent on advertising. And so kind of hard to break in much until we got past that. But since then, it's really been all about the holidays. I think the first mistake that people make is overextending their budget. So if you're running a small business and you have cash flow concerns, you have, payroll to meet, you've got fixed expenses, you shouldn't feel like just because it's the holidays, you have to exceed your comfortable budget to try and show up more and capture more sales. Because if it doesn't perform well, then you've got a problem, right? Same happens for all of us at home. Believe you me, I've got, between me and my fiance, we've got 5 kids at home. And so you start thinking about all the holiday shopping, right? It's so easy to overextend past your personal budget. Same to happen with your advertising marketing. So have that set budget, stick to it, and just try to use it as effectively as possible.
So what would be the minimum ad spend then for someone? Because, to be still effective, there's a lot of us, for example, even for us as a city, we struggle with it because you want to get your maximum reach, but how much money are we talking about, whether you're on social media on Instagram or if you're doing a newsletter?
Well, for the newsletter and things, it shouldn't have an ad budget tied to it. It should be relatively a fixed cost within your annual marketing budget related to supporting your social media, sending out your newsletter, paying for your subscription, and then credits for SMS. When we talk about advertising, again, it really depends on, are you trying to reach locally, regionally, nationally? Locally is different for everybody. Locally, for some businesses in a dense area, could be a 2 mile radius, right? You're not gonna travel more than a couple miles to get a sandwich, let's say. But typically, let's say the cosmetic dentist might go 7 miles, the cosmetic surgeon, you might go 50 miles and work with the doctor that you're really comfortable with. And then some of you raised your hands that you're selling online. And so geography is a factor. Second factor is how competitive of a space you're in. And so if you're in a more niche space that, or many in your industry are not leveraging digital advertising as much and are still a little more old school, then you might get away with not needing as much of a budget. But let's say a personal injury attorney, the cost of generating a click from Google is now in the $30 to $100 range per click. So it really depends on what industry you're in and how competitive it is online. The third factor is just what channel and what type of traffic you're trying to generate. And so typically the cost from, let's say, Google search or from video advertising or from LinkedIn could be higher than getting display banners online, getting viewed by many, or a Google Performance Max or a Meta ad campaign, where you can often get more visibility and more affordable clicks, even if not as quite as high of a in the funnel of intent. Generally, I recommend businesses to go in with at least a $40 to $50 a day budget. You don't want to come up with such a small budget that your ads stop running by 11 a.m. and you don't know if the afternoon or evening would have performed better. That doesn't help anybody, right? You need to put enough in to get a valuable test, baseline, and then optimize from there. Now, once you have a really well-running campaign on that channel, and you pause out all the stuff that wasn't converting using those techniques that we already talked about, you could get down to 10 or 20 a day, but really need to be at least 40 to 50 a day to capture the right data and then optimize from there.
Let me check microphone.
How did we do it?
Yeah, I'm close to it. You can continue on.
You guys can hear us though, right?
Yeah, it was just for the live, because we wanted to put this on our website. It's still picking up a little bit, 1, 2, 3, all right, so, the other question we have is, what are the best ways, to use tools like Google Ads and Facebook to target holiday shoppers effectively, and how, can businesses measure success? Also, if you could talk about Google Ads and how much money also would be, appropriate.
Yeah, so first off, each of these platforms so evolved compared to where they were even just a few years ago. There are different campaign types. So when you think of Google, first thing you think of is Google search, right? You go to Google, you search, and what are those ads coming up at the top? But Google owns YouTube. And a little fun fact for everybody, more people watch YouTube every day than Netflix. So huge opportunity there. Great search engine. Then you think about, as you float around the internet, all these banner ads online, right? So you go to your favorite news site or your favorite sports site and you see different banner ads. Well, Google manages about half of all those banner ads online. And so between its YouTube channel and that whole display network, there's all these other campaign types available through Google to consider. one of the newest types that's getting a lot of traction is called performance maps. And that's where you're able to blend in your Google search, display, and video all into one campaign type, and allowing Google's AI and machine learning to attempt to maximize performance as the campaign type name says. So I think that putting together a strategy to leverage the assets that you have, I would typically start with search, performance maps, and display remarketing as those three campaign types. And then if you have good video assets, then consider expanding to YouTube. On Meta, there's again many different campaign types, but you want to be able to do that prospecting campaigns to your in-market audience. But then I love remarketing campaigns. And so if you get 1,000 people to come to your website or landing page, and only 2% or 5% of them convert into a lead or sale, how do you follow around the other 95, 98% over the next 3, 7, 30 days to stay top of mind, hoping that they choose to come back and convert on the second click? I don't know about you guys, but if I want to make any big purchases, I better check with the real boss before I do it, right? And so I'll often investigate things, but then need to remember to go back and complete that purchase. So having those different campaign types, again, I would typically recommend the minimum of $40 to $50 a day on Google, maybe $30, $35 a day on Meta, but it's completely dependent on the reach that you're trying to have, and also the frequency. How often you want people to see you. Advertising 101, usually people need to see your ad at least 4 times until they take action. Sometimes it could be as much as 7. And so, why do you think big personal injury attorneys, Morgan & Morgan and Rubenstein Law and Anajar and Levine, why do they have billboards off the side of 95 and elsewhere? But first, lots of car accidents,
Yeah.
lots of car accidents happen on 95, but they want to be top of mind. So that way, when you do have a need and you go search, oh yeah, I've seen that name and logo all over the place. They must be really reputable. I'm going to choose to call them. And so building up that frequency that then leads to a conversion when they wind up being in market.
Thank you very much. So we're gonna shift now to the influencer marketing. And this is something that's important because we've seen a lot of influencers lately partnering with some of our businesses. And so for small businesses, what is the best way to identify and collaborate with a local influencer for the holiday campaign? Knowing that it could get expensive or maybe not. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yes, so the beauty of an influencer is that you have someone else talking about your business and they already have their following. So one of the things that I always tell my clients is to make sure, we'll be like, okay, we got a list of these influencers and we really like her. And, we definitely want Alex Earl to be here and talk about this. I don't know if you guys know who Alex Earl is. If you are 25, you do. So, great, she's got several million followers, but it's going to cost you a lot of money to get one post. So I do think that it makes sense to find the right influencer for your business. Who is their audience? And maybe they only have 10,000 followers, but they really speak to, again, your brand personality. They fit with their audience, aligns with who you want to come in or who you want to shop with you or who you want to talk about you. So I do think it makes sense to look at not only just the following, but look also what type of content they're posting. Does that fit with my brand personality? And then also who is their audience? If you're trying to reach women, make sure that most of their following is women of a certain age or whatever that might be. And the beauty of it is that many of these influencers do have media kits available when you reach out saying, oh my gosh, we love your content. We think that your content fits with our brand. they are pretty quick about sharing with you. This is who's following me, this is the engagement rate, and also this is my price. So sometimes it might be priced out, but there's also ways to make negotiations, or if it's something that, if you are something that is on site, ways that we've kind of gotten around it for other clients, is we might do a paint-bass event. Again, kind of going back to that multi-channel thing where it's a really great event, something people want to go to, something that kind of, oh, but wait, I'm gonna get a little VIP access for this. You don't quite have the control necessarily of the messaging, but you are gonna get that influencer to post that on the stories and hopefully tag you, and there's different ways around that. So yes, you wanna look at who they are, what their audience is, what their content is, what their engagement rate is, what their audience is, and from there, we can choose which are the right ones for you. And last thing I'll just say, sometimes it is just also this gut feeling vibe that you just really get along. This is the kind of influencer that I see that it could be a long-term partnership. Those are the best ones. In the same way of finding another agency or someone who's gonna do better, it's somebody that you are gonna want to work with over and over again. And you might need to,
Do that.
the same way that you test a digital strategy, you might want to test that out.
Lenza, so I think we spoke a little bit about the essential elements of a successful influencer strategy, but I wanted you to touch on the fact that we've seen a lot of influencers come in and, really make a business blow up, like it's just in a positive way. But then as that, fury or like, there's a wave and it comes down. And so what should the business be doing also to make sure that it's successful, that they ride that wave and they continue, because I don't think that it's affordable to just depend on the influencer as well.
Yes, and this is something that, I always talk about, there's this little bakery in London, and it was my favorite place that no one knew about. And I went back a year later, and she was like a big Korean content creator. The line was 3 blocks long.
Wow.
Like it was it's kind of that TikTok effect that people go and, you have ways of it. So you also want to make sure that you don't alienate kind of your OGs, the people that have supported you from the beginning. So there might be some things that you can do as, you're one of our, going back to what Seth was saying about, nurturing those that are already with you, whether it's giving them special perks, giving them, hey, who does this really well is Boya Day, up in Little River. It is impossible to get a reservation, but if you were one of their OGs and you've been part of their wine club for years, you get first dibs on those reservations. So there's certain things that you can do to make sure that you keep the loyalty of the people that have been with you for a long time. Also, there are ways to, let's say you do have kind of that influencer blow up, and then you kind of have everybody going, whether it's to take the pictures of it because it's highly Instagrammable. Keep those moments changing. Whatever it might be, whether it be, a fun menu offering, or if it's, an Instagram wall, or if it's something that is gonna keep having people come back, so that it also, that imagery does not necessarily become stale either. And that's the kind of thing you can run. You can easily run an Instagram contest with it. Something of like post and get. So keeping it fresh, and then really like making sure that you're being kind to your OGs.
If I may, just one other point there, right? Is you mentioned scenarios where it blew up and didn't work out for them, right? And so what are those things to be thinking about from a strategic business perspective? Is your business scalable, right? So if you were to get 20% more demand tomorrow, 50% more demand tomorrow, 100% more demand next month, could you keep up with it? would you be maxed out? What would you do? I remember when I was 17, they taught me how to drive in Brooklyn, New York. And the instructor said, Seth, don't look at the car in front of you, look 3 cars ahead. And so I always think about in any business that I'm operating, not just what's the next step, but what would 3 steps from now be? And being prepared for being able to produce more product, inventory more product, ship more product, build more service. Contract out something. What would that be? What would those contingencies be? So that way, if it does work out, if things are working, that you don't have to hit the brakes because of those scalability issues.
Can I ask, related to social media, is there a preference for static pictures versus video? Because I've heard a lot of like, now you have to have video, and so how do you make that work? And also the use of AI.
It's both. The algorithm is the algorithm. If I knew how to properly feed that algorithm, I would be, but generally speaking, you need a mix. You need a mix of both. Those static images, especially now that you can do on Instagram, for example, you can have up to 20 in a carousel. I really like those because you might have seen the post, but then 2 hours later, you open up Instagram again and it's that same post, but it's a different photo of it. So you do get a lot of eyes on it. Video, it is that the way the algorithm works there. Suddenly it'll go viral and then you spend a long time trying to kind of catch that wave again. It really is what makes sense for what it is that you're messaging out there. If it is, just a mixed boat, really. So if it is an event, sometimes a reel is a great recap. If there is something that is sort of trending, everyone talks about trending sounds and there might be certain trends that fit within your brand. That you can hop on one of those trending sounds or one of those trending templates and really leverage for your audience. So I think it's a matter of kind of seeing what's out there and seeing if it fits within your brand and doing. But generally speaking, you do not necessarily need to be posting every day on Instagram on your feed. But yes, a mix of video, a mix of carousels. If it is just a really stunning picture that makes sense to do a one-off, then you do the one-off, maybe put $10 behind it and boost it. But I also think it makes sense to keep your stories active as well, which allows you to kind of do those quick short videos, whether it be a graphic that you can then click through to directly to the website or the landing page or whatever you'd like. Doing the polls, doing the ask me anythings. If you are a founder or you've got a specific personality that's sort of the head of your business. Different ways that you can engage people and keep them coming, because if they've engaged with your content within the past certain amount of time, they're going to continue to see your content. And hopefully reshare it, and that's how you begin to grow your audience.
I would just add in on the video stuff that there's so many different types of video that you can leverage. So not only is it should you have a mix of video and static, video and carousel, posts versus stories and reels, but what type of video? And so there's the educational videos that make you look authoritative, where you're sharing useful information with people. There's more direct response videos, where think of it like that direct response call to action TV commercial you might see. There's that UGC, user generated content style video. There's testimonials. And so again, just based on what's authentic for your brand and what type of content, but to also be testing and measuring different types of video.
And I will say that also maybe different channels, it's different kind of video that makes sense,
100%.
right?
And some channels are video only, right?
Right.
So like with YouTube, with Vimeo, with TikTok, you can't be there without that video content.
Question about the content as well, long or short? Sometimes we get a whole paragraph and an essay on our social media. And then some are very, very short. And also, if you could talk about Spanish. So there's some businesses that feel more comfortable in Spanish, is that a thing?
I'll do. I'm gonna speak specifically to Instagram and to Facebook right now. There is the translate feature. Right, so if you are specifically making content in English, it does have the translation for someone that might be Spanish speaking. Many times for clients, we will do both. We will have English first, and then we have a little Spanish thing, or use some of the AI that you have with CapCut or even in Instagram or things like that, that will auto-generate the translations below if you're using a video. And then something that works for Miami, Spanglish. We all speak both. We all kind of know how to mix both of them, and you know, I'm married to a gringo and he understands it. He won't speak it, but he understands it. So if something playful like that fits with your brand, that you can, for example, we used to, it was the regional component of Miami International Airport, and we didn't do the airport stuff. We did like the fun stuff of where, you know, where to go eat and have a drink and go shopping and things like that. We had our Spanglish Saturdays. It was something that we just kind of did that showcased things that were very uniquely Miami, but that spoke to the Latin American audience traveling through MIA, but also the Miami locals, but didn't necessarily, you know, make the people who are just the English speakers feel alienated in any way. It kind of invited them into the fold. So if there's overall, just as much as you can make people feel included and not excluded, I think that's where that Spanish English thing comes in. And again, if your market is primarily Spanish speaking, meet them where they are. And people can always use the translation, or you can flip it. So that's something I said.
Just to leverage a case study, I remember I came in as the fractional CMO for Kendall Toyota and Lexus Kendall back in 2018. And they spent millions on advertising and marketing to that, you know, Miami Hispanic audience through television and radio. And as I'm auditing everything that they're doing, I realized that 0 of their digital was in Spanish. And so that was a missed opportunity because that's such a big piece of that audience, especially for Kendall Toyota. The second factor there is that when we're talking about Google search in particular, the competitiveness on those paid ads in Spanish is often less. And so the cost per click could be 10%, 40%, in some cases 70% lower cost per click. And so often, again, a missed opportunity. What I would caution is that if somebody is consuming content in Spanish or searching in Spanish and they click, they're going to want to go to a landing page experience that's in Spanish. If they get there and it's only in English, you lost them.
Right.
So think of that whole funnel to all the way through to who's going to respond to that call or inquiry, right? But that whole funnel to, again, follow your brand and be consistent from a language perspective.
All right, and this is open to both of you. If a small business has limited resources, what would you prioritize first to maximize their marketing impact?
Well, just, you know, I think that we take an approach that we call IPV. And so first is identifying your unique selling proposition, unique value proposition, your elevator pitch, your why, right? What makes you unique and special? And then developing the assets around telling that story and delivering that content and those assets to your target audience wherever they are. And so here it's what's the most affordable way of creating authentic content that's going to resonate with your audience, and then delivering it on the channels that we've been talking about. And so for me, I love those lead nurture things first and foremost, social media, email, SMS. In some cases, it could be a direct mail campaign. It doesn't have to be digital. There are traditional ways you can pick up the telephone and actually call people. You'd be surprised, some do answer the telephone. And so, but that lead nurture and capturing that search volume.
And I guess I'm biased, but I do, it costs you nothing to open up a social media account and start to say.
That's true.
So I think that that is actually one of the most affordable ways of doing it. Even if you're posting while no one is looking, while you're kind of figuring things out. So, and I think it's, not only is it inexpensive if you, as I think as Seth was saying, you already have a clear idea of what your brand's personality is, what the message you want to put out there. It is as easy as hitting record and you telling your brand story.
You're right.
And I think that that's where you begin to, hopefully hit a nerve with somebody, and that's where you begin to kind of grow your audience, and that's where you then can become more consistent with your social media.
And there's so many great success stories where they grew their business leveraging social media and they didn't have any paid ad strategy. So if you can be, again, consistent with that content and resonate with your audience, it's important. And as Liza said, it's free. There's no barrier to entry.
All right, and what's the key trend in marketing today that some small businesses can take advantage of and focus just to stay competitive?
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, video is definitely a piece. I would kind of extend beyond some of the things we talked about today. So a big trend is cord cutting. And so people who are moving away from their linear television and moving to a programmatic type of media. So that's your streaming media like Hulu, Roku, Sling, Netflix, and such. And those ads are called connected TV or OTT. They're moving to streaming media for their radio and their audio. And so Pandora, Spotify, iHeartMedia app, Sirius XM. And so the trend in moving away from the traditional media that we grew up consuming advertising through to that digital streaming programmatic. The good news about programmatic is you can target so much better than you could through those traditional ways. And there's some additional tracking because if they're watching streaming media on their laptop or tablet or cell phone, then often those ads can be clickable. If they're listening to the streaming audio through their cell phone, again, those ads can be clickable, and that enhances all the tracking and analytics.
Just kind of going back to what you were saying, I think there's also, especially after this election, I think everybody just kind of wanted to just take a big step back of just, okay, I'm not watching CNN, I'm not watching any of this other stuff. I, really just want to go, no matter what side you are, just want to just have the moment. I think that's why everyone was so excited to get the Christmas tree up early this year and, be with family and friends and kind of repair relationships and things like that. And I think it was interesting to see that right after the election, there was a lot of people that kind of took that break from social media because it was one of those, it was not a happy place to be. Even if I was talking about a $2 million condo, it was also kind of, everything kind of had this sort of, a little bit of a feel to it. I think people are ready to just have joy, and I think that the holidays is the best way to do it. So I think you see people, moving off of different social media platforms, going on to other ones, people that are, I'm just gonna be all about cat pics and dog videos. But I think that that's something, if it makes sense for your brand, to do something kind of joyful, something that's gonna make people feel good, people that are gonna wanna, connect again with their family and their friends and feel good about opening up their phones. And I think that there is an opportunity to kind of speak that. I don't think that's kind of more of just a vibe check or a vibe feeling that I've had having because of my job being extremely online. That's where I think people are kind of ready for something. I think that kind of helps.
So just something that I saw and I thought it was pretty clever that a jewelry store did located in Coral Gables. They had a Black Friday sale, so you had to come into the store. They promoted all this on social media, but it was a Black Friday sale. Then for Cyber Monday, it was all about their clients that had registered online that they have because they also have an online presence. And then the next day, they did only for social media. So everyone that was on their social media that follows them had a special discount. So I thought that was pretty nice and cool and just different, as well to take advantage of. Any questions from the crowd, from the audience here? Any questions about, yes?
Yay.
Well, I don't have a retail business, I'm an architect,
Okay,
and I came because you always learn something from any of these presentations. So what about producing content? We haven't discussed that at all. I write a lot of content, I get more traffic from my content than I get from any kind of ad spend. So is there any way to make it more efficient, to make it better, what do you have? What can you give me on that?
well, what kind of content are you currently making? Is it like blog and website content?
Yes, it's blog. I have a
Yeah.
website and then I have a blog and then I write a lot about, the different issues of doing a house of, doing an addition. What is it like to work in the city of Miami, which is a royal pain in the
Yes.
So what you're describing to me is informative educational content that's longer form content that is educating your audience, but it's also getting picked up by the search engines. And so I imagine that some of the traffic that you're getting from that is because those pages are getting indexed by Google, and then people are searching with questions, and that's making your website more authoritative. So huge fan of that. Kudos, and like Liza said, with social media, there's no barrier to entry, there's no cost other than your time. I like to say that there's 3 ways to grow your business: time, money, and luck. Some of us get lucky, some goes viral, or whatever it is, one big opportunity. But absolutely, when people find you to be authoritative, then you can leverage that further. We've absolutely been testing all kinds of different AI platforms to try to see if we can make content that's still quality, but faster and more affordable. Definitely that works in some occasions. Google really tries to discourage it, and it sounds like what you're doing is working. What I would challenge you with to consider would be a couple of things. Number one is, how are you then sharing that blog post everywhere online? And so on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, how are you sharing it with a little blurb and some hashtags and a graphic tied to it? Number two, could you do a short little video?
That's exactly what I was
See,
gonna say.
Two great minds think alike. And so could you do a little blurb that's the beginning of it, a summary or an introduction to it, the teaser? Want to learn more, then you click and you wind up seeing the rest. And so now you have access to YouTube and other mediums, other channels to further expand the reach of content you've already written. And a little old school, but some will use some of these social bookmarking sites like Reddit to also expand the reach of that content.
Because I was watching Neil Patel yesterday.
Yeah.
And he says Reddit is a really great platform, and I had never even thought of it.
It answers all of my weird questions.
Really? It's surprising slash amazing.
Someone has already thought of it and someone has already attempted to answer it. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And you hear these stories like, the GameStop stock that blows up, right? And so there's absolutely daily activity on sites like Reddit. And when it gets engagement. It absolutely gets noticed by Google and will affect your organic rankings.
And I just a little bit of what Seth said. If you aren't comfortable with a camera and it is amazing what you can do with a really good iPhone. Make sure you got really good lighting, you do it in your office, you can shoot them all at the same time based on some other content that you have already written. And just have them be 30, 45 seconds, a minute of you almost having a conversation with someone. I think would be amazing. And I think that's the type of content that when I do look at designers, architects, builders, that is the kind of content that I will sit and I will watch and I will learn something from. So you might think.
Any other questions?
Not necessarily a question, but something I wanted to add to that is. I work now with the city of Coral Gables, who focus on the economic development team, but prior to I worked in New York City government, and something that we started to do. Is RFPs, right, request for proposals. That's not very sexy, not very attractive, usually a document that you post on a website and hope and pray that enough people respond to. And we started to create content, right, where we would get our president, CEO, or whoever, was managing that project to make a 30 to 60-second conversation about, we would have them walking the streets like, did you know that this site is vacant? And come on, and not only did we find that it was helpful in increasing responses to proposals, but also in getting people in the community to know what the heck is going on with this site. And it increased our engagement on our socials, it increased our engagement at our public events, at our public hearings, for better or worse, sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
you can get crazy. But we found that it was very effective, right? And traditionally, we just used to post our RFPs on, The Real Deal and all these fun newsletters. But now they're posting it on LinkedIn and people are engaging and having conversations. So I think it, typically when we think about digital marketing, we think only for businesses, but it can be for services like architecture and even for city government, right? For anything, people want to know and learn it. So it can be a very powerful tool.
Short and digestible, and then people can dig down deeper once they have that.
And you'd asked this question earlier about this, which was short form or long form, and so for most of what we're talking about here, it's really that short form content. That doesn't mean that you can't publish longer form content on YouTube, on Vimeo, integrated into your website. It absolutely has a purpose, but for attracting those eyeballs and getting them to want to learn more, most of the time it's leveraging that short form content.
And that's like 45 seconds, more or less.
15,
15,
30, no more than 60.
No more than 60.
Any other questions? All right, so just so you know, all the information that we've gone through and some of their specific recommendations for sites that you should do certain things on and step-by-step guides. So how to see your demographics in the back end of Instagram and all those things will be emailed to you as well. So you'll get a lot of information on that. Thank you very much for both of you for doing this for us. We really appreciate it. And if you put your name in that bowl at the front, we will be raffling off a SWOT analysis that the team at Preps will be engaging one of you with. So that's great. I want to call up Nikki Diaz right now. She is with Vine Communications. She helps, she really runs the city's social media platform, the Instagram. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of our businesses want to be reposted on the city's social media. So whether it's on stories or LinkedIn, on, either LinkedIn or Instagram, people are always wanting us to repost or share their information. And so there's some guidelines for that. And so Nikki's here to, give us a breakdown on that. So you can get some eyes on the social media, the city social media. I think there's like 70,000 followers. And so it's a good way of doing it.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everybody. How are you? Go this way. Okay, awesome. Oh, sure. As Belkey said, my name is Nikki Davis. I own Vine Communications. We have worked with the city for a very long time, but the Instagram page was started actually in, I think, 2015, 2016. And I think it started with like 700 followers and now is up to about 80,000. So just like showing that, does everybody follow the city of Coral Gables like Instagram page? Okay, not everybody can, feel free to do it while I'm speaking, like, we welcome that. So I think that Liza and Seth did a really good job of setting up sort of all the practices that we implement, like when we're managing the page, from both kind of viewing it as like a small business, but also as an influencer now that it's grown to such a substantial, follower base. So what we, like I said, when we first started, it was 750 people. With the page kind of started as a way to really communicate about the streetscape project, and it has morphed over the years, and we've had to sort of rebrand the page. So the mission of the Instagram page is really to create content that showcases Coral Gables as a world-class city with a hometown feel. And that's really sort of like the backbone of the content that we produce of what it is that we're trying to push out. And then obviously highlighting, Coral Gables, the all of the pillars that Liza mentioned that you want to kind of like stay true to. So history, art and culture, shopping, dining, international business, commerce, innovation. So these are all our pillars, right? Our brands that we try to stay true to when we're producing content. I share this just to kind of give you the bigger picture of why it sometimes can get a little challenging with promoting things individually, individual businesses. It's a balance that we have to strike. So we cater to 4 different audiences, that obviously like ebb and flow. So the way that we categorize it is, again, to Seth and Liza's point, it's like, who are you trying to reach? So these are the four categories that we really try to target. So locals and residents, people that are in our neighborhood, live, work, people that are, that are gonna go to the coffee shop or maybe go to the farmer's market or go to, local events. So the content that we push out, we obviously want to cater to those folks. Local out-of-towners, people like Tri-County area, the way that we might decide that we're gonna go to West Palm Beach and take the Bright Line, or we might want to spend a day trip going to the Keys or something like that. We're really trying to target those people that are a little bit beyond like our backyard, but it's not such a difficult thing to wrap your head around about spending the day in Coral Gables. Travelers is a little bit more of a longer extended stay, whether that's for leisure or for business. So from the business traveler, if they have an option of where it is that they want to stay, if they're going to be here for an extended period of time in Miami doing business, we want to attract them and think that maybe Coral Gables might be a nice option as opposed to like Brickell or downtown. And then obviously leisure, we want to be able to create content that speaks to the fact that the Coral Gables is an amazing hub for you to be able to kind of, visit all the other areas of Miami, but a great place for you to call home base when you're on vacation. And then lastly, business, obviously, local community, local business owners like yourselves, and then relocators. So our page really also is trying to sell Coral Gables to bigger businesses or smaller businesses who might be looking for where they want to, plant their flag, where do they want to call their headquarters. So we have to kind of cater to that, and we sell that to them in turn by promoting the lifestyle and the attributes that I mentioned earlier. So this is really nuts and bolts, but just because of the fact that we do get, a lot of messages from business owners and residents asking sort of, can you please post this? Can you please post that? I thought it would be helpful to just explain a little bit behind the curtain of how it is that we work in terms of content planning. So we plan 2 weeks, to 1 month in advance, obviously with like flexibility because it's real time, and that's just the nature of the world that we live in now.
But we do try to have some sort of structure, otherwise it would be impossible to maintain. And then our page is really about content that fits into a larger, content that fits into the larger story of the page. Unfortunately, I wish we could promote every single business and every single sale and every single new item and every single new dish, but unfortunately, we have to kind of wrap that in a macro package, and we don't really have the luxury to be able to do that. So, we strive for content that fits into like just really selling the Coral Gables lifestyle, live, work, play. And then, as I was saying, avoiding micro promotional content, it's a challenge for us to be able to do that, even though we would love to. And then real-time monitoring, responding and reacting. I don't want to like stretch it, but Belky's been with us for a very long time. We monitor quite a bit. I don't want to say 24 hours a day, but 18 hours a day. Responding, questions and answers, directing people to the right place. And I only share that just because it's just a piece of the puzzle that people don't necessarily see what happens when you're managing a city's page, what kind of comes in on the back end. So if somebody is, I don't think this happens to anybody in this room, but if somebody is complaining about your business or something like that, that could very well come to us. And that's something that we do monitor and manage. And if there's a negative comment that we do work to take down, to protect, you know what I mean, you guys as individuals, but then obviously the bigger picture brand of Coral Gables. So then collaboration, we get asked this a lot about what's the best way to collaborate with the page to leverage the audience that we do have. So I can't stress it enough, just content that has a macro appeal and fits into the larger mission of the page. So for example, if you own a coffee shop, we wouldn't necessarily maybe promote a new latte that you're putting onto the menu, but we would do a roundup of like coffee shops of, to paint the picture of like the quaint entertainment, like lifestyle, al fresco dining of Coral Gables. So thinking about like what are the visuals you're creating that aren't so specific to your business, but tell the bigger picture of why your business is so cool in Coral Gables, usable content, flyers. We get a lot of flyers asking for people, asking us to promote, and I'll give you some examples after this slide. Ask us to promote events or specials or things like that. It's a challenge for us to be able to do that. Again, we would love to be able to, but unfortunately we can't. So really just thinking about what is usable content that delivers like clear and concise messaging, that fits in again to this like bigger picture of us trying to push the brand of Coral Gables as opposed to individual businesses. And video obviously is great for us to be able to to use, again, just promoting the lifestyle of Coral Gables. Collaborator invites, we get this a lot too about people wanting us to become collaborators on the posts that they're creating or the reels they're creating. Unfortunately for us, it may or may not happen in real time because like I said earlier, we have our content planned out. So it's hard for us to accept something right away because it might not fit. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll save the content that that people post, and then we'll try and fit it in a later time. Or our rule of thumb is if you want to reach out to us via DM, 2 weeks, a little bit in advance to give us notice, we might be able to shuffle things around. It's just difficult to do in real time as we're trying to just satisfy and check so many different boxes. Obviously, this is, to tag the city of Coral Gables, DM us for questions. We're, like I said, pretty responsive. So that's usually like the best way at the grounds level of being able to collaborate is to tag the city. And then here are some of the examples that I was saying that these are, things that we've been asked to post, but unfortunately aren't able to. It just doesn't fit with the look and feel, or just things that end up getting engagement, right? So like the thing is that even if we did, or it wasn't directed to promote one of these flyers, we don't feel great about things that don't get a lot of engagement. So we end up archiving it anyway. So it becomes sort of like a missed opportunity. We'd much rather you do something for a Thanksgiving special that was like a visual or a video or something that maybe spoke to why your business was, serving up something great in this beautiful backyard of Coral Gables, than just doing it in like a graphic. And so these are examples of contents that we do love. So for example, this first one from Crema, it's a video, and the link probably didn't translate into the slide. But it's a video of a mother and her son sitting outside, sharing a salad and a coffee. So instead of it just pushing, you know, come to Crema, we're the best coffee place on the planet, it's really kind of showing you why Coral Gables is a great place to have a cup of coffee, because you can sit yourself, your child, sit outside, the beautiful palm trees in the background. It's telling the story of the bigger picture as opposed to just the specific individual business. And the second example is from the Colony. So instead of just giving us an image of the outside of the hotel, even though it's beautiful, what that picture is really showing to me, it's like young, fun, you can bike in the city. It's, you know what I mean? It's giving you another flavor of the Coral Gables lifestyle as opposed to just showing a room or a lobby or something that's a little bit more static or stale.
And both fit with the overall aesthetic, I think. of the
Yes,
city.
yes, exactly. Something else that we have to kind of, we pay attention to is that just the look and feel of the page itself, right? So. That was it. It was very short and sweet. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has.
And not so much a question, but just in addition to that, it's also when tagging the city on the story specifically, you'll have, especially if it is something that's happening in that day or something like that. When you post your content, make sure you tag the city on stories if you're sharing there, because that has a higher percentage likelihood to be reshared if it fits these conditions than an actual post or reel, which then lives on the page. Stories cycle out every 24 hours and you have a higher chance of getting featured there. But you always have to remember to, one, fit these criterias, but also tag the city. Because if you don't tag the city, we don't know about it and we can't even consider it to be shared.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys is, this is a lot of information and some of you may not have the bandwidth to be able to do it on your own. So we do have a partnership with the University of Miami. We also have, Krebs has a relationship with FIU, with the Bold Agency. They have insurance and they have very affordable prices also. If you need someone to write content, take pictures, look at the back end of your social media and really help you with that. There's obviously marketing students in both those universities that can help you. If you're interested in that, please just let us know. Just send us an email to business@coralgables.com and then we'll be able to hook you up with those particular education institutions. And so if you wanna, I think that we're gonna send you the information and all the digital tools, but I think, very important is visual. We really want to make sure that we have a lot of videos that we're incorporating. Stuart was here a second ago, but he is promoting a book that he wrote. So I think, and a good thing for him would have been maybe to take a snippet of that story that he's trying to tell about Coral Gables and maybe walk a certain area of that neighborhood and talk about it as he's in the neighborhood. And maybe that's an example of something that he should be promoting. So I hope that you found ways of engaging and thinking about things differently. These are both our social media handles. If you scan them, you can follow Krebs PR Marketing. And if you scan the city of Coral Gables, it will take you to our platforms as well. I think we've gotten to the point of raffling off a SWOT analysis from Krebs. Did everyone put in their?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
we have some sticky notes and some business cards.
All right. Fuzzies, ultra premium vodka, sophisticated sand spirits. All right, awesome, congratulations. So you'll be getting a SWOT analysis from Krebs Media, so we'll hook you up with that. And please, so one other thing I wanted to let you guys know is that we're having a business recycling event this Saturday. Your business in Coral Gables, and you have some items that you'd like to recycle, get off your storefront, please. We have paper, electronics. If you have any clothing, you can also bring it as well. And I'm missing one other one. Is it cardboard? And cardboard as well. So please bring those. It's the parking lot behind City Hall this Saturday, 9 to noon. We do it only once a year, so this is your opportunity to get rid of all that stuff free of charge. with electronics as well.
The electronics, it's anything, essentially anything with a plug or that takes batteries. We'll accept it and recycle for you. Large appliances is the only thing that we tend not to take, but you have like mini fridges or old computers or cell phones or display screens or TVs. That are just sitting in your storage in your business that are broken or you've been needing to get rid of. Please bring them over and we'll recycle them properly for you.
Bring them here.
No, at the City Hall parking lot, 405,
Yeah.
9 to
Drive through.
9 AM to noon on Saturday, December 7th.
So thank you, all of you, for joining, for being here. This is your home. If you ever need to get a hold of us, if you have any questions about permitting, if you want to open another business, if you want to expand, any questions that you have regarding your business, please feel free to come, or you can just email us at business@coralgables.com. We're here to help you because your success is really our success. We want you to be successful in the city. And with that, if you don't have any further questions, please feel free to take some goodies in the back. We've got cookies, we've got waters, we've got some snacks, we've got some bowls from a local merchant here called Hermanos Grill, which made some nice Mexican bowls for us. Thank you.
Yeah, that's.
A lot of stuff and stick to the. You know, there's a lot of people like Nick. And so. I got pictures of my dog.